You see, here in America, everything Republican has failed. Their economic policy over the years, because of the stupidity of Reagan's trickle-down theory, which was all fraud, just to give tax breaks to the rich and corporations. Reagan's own economic advisor, David Stockman, admitted it was all smoke and mirrors fraud. But Republicans stick with it because they're just giving, that's all they got. Give money to the rich. Give your money to the rich. Give your money to the rich. And again, 2008, you saw it again under the disastrous Bush-Cheney Republican agenda. The whole situation, the economics collapsed again, dramatically. Republican failure. Even on the state level. This guy Brownback was the governor of Kansas, and he put in that trickle-down fraud, and Kansas went belly-up bankrupt. And when Trumpy Boy came in, he was only riding on what the repair work that Obama had done after the collapse in 2008. Obama got the economy back going, the stock market, all these things got going up in 2010, and they were going up all the way through for the rest of Obama's term. So when Trumpy Boy, the idiot, came in, he didn't have any economic thing. He's, a 6-time bankrupt loser. He didn't know anything about business. He just borrows money and then doesn't pay it back. And he can borrow it because he's rich. Republican. White. So he just said that the economy is growing because he's in there. Nothing happened. In fact, the economy started to fall apart because the idiots started to do trade wars, pulled you out of the reality of climate change, the Paris Accords, tried to pull you out of NATO for Europe. See, that was all because Putin said, get this whole thing going for me, so that Putin could invade Ukraine. And Trumpy Boy was his fool. And Trumpy Boy is the guy who stood there and lied to you and said, oh, COVID, it's a fake, it's a hoax, said Trumpy Boy, while you were dying by the thousands a day. And all the rest of the Republicans went in with him on it and mirrored the same thing. The lies, the fraud, the failure. So now, after another Republican collapse from Trumpy Boy, a disaster, here's Democrats coming in again to try and rebuild. And what will happen in 2022, 24 elections is that your economic situation has gotten so much better because the Democrats did it. But the Republicans then will ride on the repair work done by the Democratic Party to get the economics back going. And they will then give tax breaks to the rich and start the whole thing to collapse again. Because the whole thing Republicans are is the rich. They don't care about you. Who do they play to? Who do they talk to? Who do they try and stir up? The ignorant, the violent, the racist, the Christian fascist. Just look who showed up on January 6th. Nazis, racist groups, Christian fascism. And now, after you've seen what's going on, Republicans are busy trying to block you from voting. They're making up lies. The whole thing of Republican is built on lies and fraud. So they start, oh, there was voter fraud. Oh, we got to have voter IDs. We got to have different vote. There was none of that. There wasn't any voter fraud. That was all Republican lies. They just made it up. Just said there was. And said it over and over and over again. And there's Trump lawyers, Sidney Powell, Rudy Giuliani, lying relentlessly. They filed, 30, 60 lawsuits in various courts. All of them were thrown out because none of them had any legal merit. and Dominion voting machines sued and is suing Sidney Powell for defamation. And Sidney Powell's only defense in the court filings, her only defense, is to say, well, all those things I said, no sane person would believe. That's her defense. So it shows you what the bunch of Republicans are. They're nuts. They're insane if they believe Sidney Powell by her own statement. The fabricated lies and deceptions they made about the 2020 election. Oh, the things, ballots going from Korea. Oh, the China, and there's bamboo. Oh, they were being... It was all lies. And even she, in her in the lawsuit brought against her, the only defense is to say, well, what I said, well, no sane person would believe it. Trump's own attorney, the quasi-criminal William Barr, even he said there was no voter fraud. They looked into it. Several other federal agencies, all at that time Republican-oriented, looked into it. No voter fraud. The facts are there wasn't any voter fraud. It doesn't matter, because all it has to do is play to the fools on Fox News, right-wing outlets of propaganda. And that's so if you hear any Republican independently, you hear them say the same lies and deceits they've heard on Fox News. And let's remember, Trump lost twice. In 2016, he lost by 3 million votes, over 3 million. And after 4 years, you were so sick of him, you voted him out by over 7 million votes. And that lying and fabrications and conspiracy theories, that's all the Republican Party has. That's all they're running on. Republicans are the party of paranoia. Just listen to the language that they're always using. Oh, it's filled with fear and conspiracy, racism and bigotry, and Christian fascism. Oh, you got to do it because the book of their dark age religion says they can have to do. In other words, they're trying to institute Christian Sharia law into legislation. And it's the very thing these right-wing Christian wackos have been complaining about Islam, is Islam will come over and Islam will make Islamic Sharia law. But it sure is what the Christian lunatics are doing. They're trying to block women from getting access to abortion, health care, any form of actually they're out to stop you from getting any form of reproduction control. And what do they base it on? Religion. Dark age, ignorant religion. And Republican Christian wackos are trying to block what? Equal rights for gays. What do they base it on? Their dark age religion of myth. And see how powerful that thing is? It's religion. It's religion. And you're supposed to be, oh boy, bow down and think, oh, it's religion, as if it has some validity. Because if you start to actually look at and listen to and understand, it doesn't have any validity in the 21st century. That's dark age mind trying to work in the 21st century. Repression, denial. In fact, the new term, the other term, not just the Republican Party of paranoia, it's the Republican Party of denial. Look what they do. They are busy, Republicans are busy trying to deny racism exists in America. And just look at the white supremacists and the racists who are in the Republican Party. They're all in the Republican Party. And they're busy trying to say, oh no, you can't teach about the history, the facts of American racism, slavery, to our kids, to know their history. You got to know your history to know what you went wrong, went correct, and build your future from what you know, from your history, and not repeat the ignorance of your history. But Republicans are busy denying. They're getting all busy about critical race theory, CRT. And they're getting freaked out and they're, oh, you can't teach it. What are they also so scared about? They're wanting to deny equal rights to gays, right? So they're denying education about sex, the sexual thing of reality. The Republicans are all about this dark age thing that it's only heterosexual. It has to be only hetero. Lunatics. Dark age, limited mind, small mind. In the 21st century, you're being called upon through your scientific research, your knowledge of history, your evolved intelligence. You're being called upon to look at these things in a broad, new, intelligent way that advances humanity to safety, to environmental sanity, to equal rights. But instead, you got a bunch of wacko Republicans saying, denial of reality. They're busy denying climate change reality. The science is there. There's agreement worldwide. Climate change is real, and it's been caused by human economics. The poison and pollution economics. And that's why Republicans say, oh, no. They try to deny it. They go, no. Because all their money is tied in with the corporations who are busy poisoning and polluting you. Oil, coal, nuclear, the chemical industries. And those corporations want to keep making their billions while they poison you. And Republicans are trumpeting, standing up there in their idiocy of Fox News and the lie machines they got, right? Telling you, you got to repeal regulations so business can move ahead. No, they won't. The regulations are there on your clean air, clean water, healthy food, to protect you, your kids. But instead, Republicans want to repeal all that. Repeal it. So that the corporations can go back to poisoning you. And they say, you'll have a job. See, if we get rid of these regulations, you'll have a job. You'll have a job poisoning yourself and your kids with that old technology, energy sources that we've outgrown. By our science, by our knowledge, we've outgrown the Industrial Revolution. We're on to the next. But the resistance is, of course, from the billionaires who made the poison and pollution, who are still poisoning and polluting you, and want to keep it doing that, and want to control how this whole thing evolves. So to do that, they got to just lie to you and deny climate change. Come up, it's just the environment. It goes through these phases. It just. No, the science is there. It's been done by scientific investigation, not just in America, but around the world, and it's all in agreement that we are in climate change caused by human economics of poison and pollution. Your oceans are filling up with plastic. You're allowing thousands and thousands of tons of toxins to be pumped into your air, your water, into your food, into your soil, so they can make profit. Because profit to Republican is more important than you. And there's the fact. Another fact. But they don't want you to know facts. That's why they got Fox News, which is just a Republican lie machine. That's why they got OAN and all those other right-wing wackos. Because they lie to you, and lie to you to keep the rich rich, to keep racism intact, to keep the bigotry intact, to keep the Christian fascism intact. Because that's all the Republican Party is. So, of course, what are Republican state legislatures doing across the country? They're busy finding and making up legislation that they can block you from voting. And then, even then, that they can say only Republicans can certify the vote. Only Republicans, and if they don't do what we say, we can decertify the electors of the Electoral College and do what Republicans want. In other words, no democracy at all. It's just a fascism. It looks like there was an election, but it was all rigged by Republicans. Isn't it funny? The very thing that all these Republicans complain about, like, oh, the voter fraud and rigging the election, is exactly what Republicans are doing. That's what they're doing. The very thing of them being so fearful about, those sex things, these sex pedophiles and these sex perverts. Oh boy. And they're all Republicans. When you look at the thing, look at Trump. Look at Trump. The sex pervert. What was his name? Jeffrey Epstein cohort. The sex trafficking. Having all these affairs with prostitutes and with porn stars and all these Republicans trying to tell you that they're so moral. Oh, they're moral. And then they got Trump. A flagrant pervert. And they go, geez, they don't want to talk about it. No, they just gloss right over that. Oh, jeez. But it isn't just Trumpy boy. Oh, man. No, new. Let's just mention the extent of even some of what has come out. There's this QAnon blood-drinking idiot named David Trent. Big guy in the whole thing, QAnon and all that stuff. He's convicted of sodomy, sex abuse with an 8-year-old boy. You got Scott DeJarlis, who was in a Republican aide and position. Oops, and he's a sex pervert. And then you got Ruben Verastigui, Verastigui, and he's busted for child porn and videos, and trying to find videos of raping children. Republican, yeah. Yep, in with the Republican National Committee, in fact, as an aide in the National Republican Committee. Then you got Trump's Commerce Department appointee, Adam Hagman, another sex pervert. And then you got George Nader. He was a Trump advisor. And he was busted for sex trafficking and child porn. He tried to smuggle in a 14-year-old boy for sex. Republicans, eh? Facts. But it didn't just do that crowd. It's even in their history. Look at Denny Hastert. He was in the Congress for years. And he got busted because he had been having sex with boys and he'd been caught because they found out he was paying blackmail to try and keep it quiet. And there was Henry Hyde and Newt Gingrich, who were having sex affairs at the very same time that they were trying to, jump on Bill Clinton for having a sexual affair. And what about Strom Thurmond, the Republican? He ran as a presidential candidate on the policy of racism and segregation. That was how he ran for president. He's in the Republican Party. And he was busted also. He had sex with a 15-year-old black girl. Got her pregnant, in fact. And there was Mark Foley. And he was sending explicit sex photos to the people who work in the pages who work in the Congress. Well, you got Tim Mahoney, who came in to replace Foley. And he got busted because Foley was having extramarital affairs and he would put his mistress on the taxpayer roll. You were paying for his mistress. How about that? These Republicans. All of them. And, of course, you got Republican anti-abortion wackos like Tim Murphy, who was having extramarital affairs, and then when she got pregnant, he wanted her to get an abortion. Suddenly he wanted to get her abortion. It goes on and on and on. The very thing they complain about is what the Republican Party is full of. Sex perverts. And there's a list. That's a partial list. All Republicans. But it's the party of denial. Oh boy, you won't talk about that? Oh no. They just stand up and constantly lie to you, deny, and then just go on. Trumpy boy stood there and said, oh yeah, COVID, it's just a hoax, he said. Trump said it was a hoax while you were dying by the thousands. He lied to you because money was more important than you to Republicans. And all the Republicans went along with him, still did. They were the ones telling you, oh, don't need vaccines. No, just get out there and work. Yeah, just get out and get sick and die, but you make the money for the rich. You know, that was all their thing. And then what happened? Who was the biggest group getting sick and dying from COVID? The unvaccinated Republicans. And all they got is the party of denial and the party of paranoia, or fantasies. Conspiracies. Oh, the vaccines, it'll make you magnetic. Oh, the vaccine, it'll change your DNA. Oh, the vaccines, they're from outer space aliens. Oh, on and on, all this insanity and ignorance, intentional stupidity. Republicans. Oh, as you saw on January 6th, and you still continue to hear, Republican Party is nothing but fascism. Christian fascism, all dressed in Christian garb, carrying their little book to say, oh, yes, but we're religion. And they're going to force their Dark Age religion on all of you. Now, we have separation of church and state. But the Republicans are busy denying that and saying, oh, no. So that's why when they talk about abortion, they don't bring it up as a way about religion. Even though that's where it all came from, that Christian wacko stuff. That's where it all came from. Because they can't bring it up and just say, well, it's from religion and a Christianity, religion, Dark Age stuff. And that says that you can't have, homosexuals. And that says women can't have birth control? And anything in their little book of myths that says, oh no, you can't have birth. There's nothing there that's valid here in the 21st century. All they got left is paranoia, fear, conspiracy theories, and denial of reality. Denial of facts. Denial of reality. The party of paranoia, the party of denial is the Republican Party. The party of denial, and I don't mean a river in Egypt. I mean denial of reality. And that's all they got. And they use the propaganda to say, oh, it's the freedoms, but the freedoms are to make them in chains. And they say it's freedoms, and their freedom thing is really to put you in poison and pollution to you and your kids. And their freedom is actually to crush human rights. Freedom. Intelligence. Science. Scientific research. You remember Bush Cheney. I mean, nobody thought it'd get worse than Bush Cheney. You know, how short, everybody wants to, Republicans don't want to talk about the big failure of Reagan or the criminality of Nixon or the foolish of Bush Sr. or the disaster of Bush Cheney dropping you into the wreck in Iraq, which makes Bush Cheney culpable for war crimes. As they broke the Geneva Accords, they broke the treaty, an international treaty on torture that the Americans had signed. And yet here come the Republicans saying, oh, torture them, yeah, torture and break the, oh, yeah, war crimes. There was Reagan running cocaine into the U.S. as part of his Iran-Contra scam. It's documented. It's all agreed on now. It's not anything. They tried to fight it and say, oh, no, it's not true. Oh, no. But it's true. Facts were there. I think it's even now the History Channel, when they run their drug war program, they overtly admit, there's Reagan running cocaine into the U.S. by the ton. Tons. And dumping it in the U.S. And during the 80s, you saw this spike in drug overdose, drug violence, drive-by shootings, killings. It was all tied to Reagan's Republican drug trafficking of cocaine. Just as Reagan and his wife were standing up there telling you, oh, just say no to drugs. Just say no. Well, Reagan's one of the biggest drug traffickers, cocaine narco traffickers. That's Republican. The party of paranoia. The party of denial. So the Trump, he's just an overt statement of what Republicans are. Because now, Trump's a racist. Trump's a criminal. Trump's tried to overthrow your government and put in a fascism dictatorship to destroy your rights. That's the Republican Party. Now you're seeing it. The mask is taken off. Wolf in sheep's clothing. Well, that sheep's clothing has been thrown aside. And that, the thing that those Christian wackos talk about, the Antichrist, the 666, there he is, the Republican Party. The party of paranoia. The party of denial, repression, fascism, all dressed in Christian garb.